Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. There is now every indication that the Trump administration is moving closer to a U.S. military war against Venezuela. According to Trump, Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro is already waging covert operations against the United States. But U.S. intelligence assessments say otherwise. And now, investigative journalist Jonathan Larson on Substack is reporting Trump got Venezuelan intelligence from a controversial fixer. Quote, Trump's narrative of a covert Venezuelan war was handed to his team last year by two proponents of regime change, a former CIA official and his business partner, a consultant reportedly paid millions by wealthy Venezuelan dissidents. In other words, Trump has been relying on sources with clear conflicts of interest and serious credibility problems. And that matters because the United States military has already been killing people in boats off the coast of Venezuela, deporting people to an El Salvador prison, and making plans for wider strikes. According to Larson, the two key Venezuelan sources for Trump are former CIA official Gary Bernson and his business partner, Venezuelan dissident named Martin Rodil. Bernson is best known for his role in the CIA's hunt for Osama bin Laden. A retired senior operations officer, Bernson reportedly briefed the Trump transition team on Venezuela before the inauguration.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
And the Miami Herald says continued to do so after Trump took office. Bernson says he is still briefing the Trump White House.
They're aware. We're briefing them directly.
The Trump
people, we're briefing them directly. They are aware. I've had meetings in the last couple of months at the DNI's office, the Office of Director of National Intelligence. And they asked me, what should you do?
Is that Tulsa Gabbard?
Yes, in her office.
Rodil is also connected, having worked with prosecutors, the Justice Department, and then Senator Marco Rubio's office. In 2016, Bloomberg reported that Rodil is a fixer for wealthy Venezuelans who want to get out without landing in a U.S. jail or losing their wealth.
Those folks who were, some of them were wealthy, were willing to pay him to help get them out. And ultimately, he also went to work as a kind of consultant for big banks and hedge funds.
Ethan, what's interesting is you actually say he brought something like 24 elites from Venezuela to the United States to kind of tell about what was going wrong in Venezuela, and specifically with their giant oil company. You're talking about former generals. You're talking, I think,
that's
about
right,
a
even
former
ministers. Absolutely. These are very serious people.
Serious people with serious motives to help the United States build a case for Venezuelan regime change. The better their evidence, the better deal they could strike to avoid jail time and keep their wealth. How credible is Rodil? U.S. officials praised him, but Bloomberg called some of his claims about Venezuela groundless. In a profile piece titled in part, If You Have the Goods in the Maduro Government, Martin Rodil might be able to get you a deal, Bloomberg wrote, Rodil's work with a right-wing ideologue has made some mistrustful of Rodil and his activities. And there's a lot of money at stake if Venezuelan regime change happens.
When have you ever seen a country that had 300 billion barrels of oil in the ground getting ready to rebuild? It's going to be the largest reconstruction project in the hemisphere. American companies will go in there and get a lot of business.
And how credible is Bernson? According to his intelligence, the Maduro regime is a cartel and Tren de Aragua is Maduro's army. The election system's Dominion and Smartmatic also march to Maduro's orders. And who else is in on it?
There are numerous officials in both political parties that are on the payroll of the Cartel del Sol and the Cuban intelligence service. The person who's most important that knows in this, who's a public person, is George Soros. Because the Soros people are partnered with the Cartel del Sol and are partnered with the Democratic Party. Those are the three stovepipes here together that are colluding together. Big player in this, too, on the Democratic side, Mark Elias.
Mark Elias.
Yeah, the lawyer.
What about...
He was in and out of... You see, look, they moved between Smartmatic and the Soros Foundation and the Democratic Party.
Lord Malik Brown.
Lord Mark Malik Brown, who was the number 2 at the United Nations under Kofi Brown, has been the global chairman of Smartmatic through 90% of this. And he's now over at the Open Society Foundation. He got a promotion. Okay? They have recruited members of the State Department. They've recruited members of the CIA. They've recruited members of of think tanks. You're looking at patient 0 and patient 01 is my business partner, okay? We are the people that went initially and walked into Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and said, they stole this election. We briefed them. Mm-hmm. They knew. Mm-hmm. They knew what we had.
Fox did.
And Newsmax. Mm-hmm. We offered them access to our witnesses, which they would not take. But instead, they confessed and paid $787.5 million in the case of Fox to the cartel. Why would they get on their knees for them when they knew they could win a case and they were innocent? That's a really important question.
Yeah. Well, why?
My question is, who paid for the settlements?
Fox News told journalist Jonathan Larson the cartel did not, in fact, pay for Fox News to pay the cartel. According to Bernsen, he and Rodil only had one source when they first briefed Team Trump about Venezuela. The United States has relied on single intelligence sources before who had clear vested interests, and it didn't work out very well. Remember the second Iraq war? The Bush-Cheney administration was convinced Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, thanks in part to a CIA informant nicknamed Curveball. Curveball's intelligence matched his Iraqi political interest for overthrowing Saddam Hussein. The intelligence was wrong. There were no WMDs in Iraq. Back to Venezuela and Donald Trump. Despite U.S. intelligence agencies casting doubt on the story from Gary Bernsen and Martine Rodil, Trump keeps escalating. He has called for tough sanctions on Venezuela, threatened military options, and doubled down on claims the Maduro regime is running a covert war against the United States. The Bernsen allegations go even further. Bernsen has reportedly asserted to Trump the Maduro regime is being aided by Russia, China, Cuba, and Iran, and that together with Venezuela, they are running a global criminal enterprise worth trillions of dollars. Bernsen has tied that network to allegations that voting systems in Venezuela, like Dominion and Smartmatic, are rigged in Maduro's favor. Those claims have been flatly rejected by independent fact-checkers and by election authorities. Still, here's where things stand. President Trump has put together a foreign policy agenda and may launch military strikes against Venezuela based not on verified intelligence, but on controversial sources with murky motives. Democrats and Republicans alike in Congress should be conducting oversight on all of this. Lawmakers should be demanding briefings from the Trump administration, classified if necessary. Why is Trump convinced the Maduro regime is a threat to the United States? What is the intelligence based on? And has the line between advocacy and facts been blurred? If a military conflict with Venezuela is in the U.S. national interest, Congress should vote on a declaration of war. If Donald Trump has solid intelligence and compelling reasons for a military battle with Venezuela, Trump will likely have no problem getting the votes from the Republican majority House and Senate. But if the Trump intelligence on Venezuela is flawed, as Jonathan Larson's reporting suggests, Congress should take the opportunity now to assert its role under the Constitution and stop this madness. 25 years ago, the United States marched into a bloody and costly war with Iraq based on flawed intelligence. Now, under Donald Trump, history seems to be repeating itself, only this time it's with Venezuela. Hello? Anybody out there? Kudos to investigative reporter Jonathan Larson. If you want to read his full written piece, we've linked to it in the description below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.